Okay, good evening from London and good evening from me, Dr. Dermot Hudson, the chairman of the British Group for the Study of Juche Idea and the chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK and also president of the Association for the Study of Songun Politics UK. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. And tonight, the only subject I'm going to talk about is my recent visit to the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, People's Korea, or Juche Korea. And I returned from the DPRK on the late evening of the 18th. So I'm just going to talk about my experience in visiting the DPRK, and then we can take a few questions after, and this will run for about an hour until about 8 o'clock. Yes, good evening. I'm doing very well, thank you. So anyway, on with my presentation about my visit. I visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or People's Korea, or Juche Korea, from the 11th of April to the 18th of April. I was the first British citizen to visit the DPRK for 5 years. When I went to the embassy to get my visa, I was told that uh, I was the first person to get a visa from the embassy for 5 years. So it was quite amazing. The last time I was actually in the DPRK was October 2019. And for several years, it was not possible to travel to the DPRK because the border was closed at the end of January 2020 as a countermeasure against the COVID-19. Only recently has the DPRK started allowing groups of visitors to visit the country, and the first people in the DPRK to visit were Russian tourists. But uh, our group, which I'll say a bit about in a minute, was really the second sort of batch of visitors to the DPRK. And I mean, I think I was quite pleased that they invited Juche dear followers and friends of People's Korea to visit before allowing in tourists from Europe, from the imperialist countries. I think bourgeois tourists are very hostile to the DPRK. So I think it's basically a very good thing that we were invited, and I myself decided to make a special effort to visit the DPRK after 5 years. I travelled to People's Korea to participate in the celebrations of the 112th anniversary of the birth of President Kim Il Sung, and in the also in the international to participate in the international seminar on the Juche idea on the theme of independence, justice, and the future of humanity, which had been organised by the Korean Association of Social Scientists and the International Institute of the Juche idea, which is based in Tokyo. The seminar attracted delegations from more than 20 countries, such as Brazil, Britain, Austria, Italy, Poland, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Germany, Poland, Belarus, Russia, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Democratic Congo, Japan, and a number of other countries. Some countries sent more than one delegation. For example, there were two delegations from Brazil, one from the Brazilian Center for the Study of Songun Politics, headed by esteemed comrade Lucas Rubio, and a delegation of the Brazilian Center for the Study of the Juche idea. Russia was also represented by several delegations. The fact that so many delegations traveled to Pyongyang, despite the expense and despite the long distances, proves that it is a lie that the DPRK is isolated, or that there is no support for the DPRK outside the country. Both of these were proved to be untrue. And indeed, the Juche idea is attracting interest from around the world. I travelled to the DPRK via Beijing, which these days, in fact, for a long time, has been the preferred option, to travel to the DPRK. It's like the staging point. So I travelled by Air China from London to Beijing. I decided to take advantage of the visa-free option that is offered to British citizens and citizens of a number of other countries. But that actually proved to be not so simple as it may seem. The check-in staff at Heathrow Airport seemed a bit doubtful, a bit sceptical about it. And I wondered whether I was going to get turned back. And then it was quite confusing actually getting the 144-hour entry permit at Beijing Airport. It was not as straightforward as it seemed, and there were delays. Border guard making phone calls. Anyway, I stayed in a hotel near the Beijing airport, and on the morning on the 11th of April, I went to the Air Koryo check-in desk at Beijing Airport, terminal number 2. And I was pleased to run into many veteran supporters of People's Korea, such as Comrade Martin Loscher of KFA Switzerland, and my old friend Yavid Ansari from Pakistan, as well as newer, energetic and militant friends of People's Korea, such as Comrade Lucas Rubio of Brazil. In the course of our stay in the DPRK, we visited the Korean Arts Museum, the Mangyeongdae School Children's Palace, the Kangdong Greenhouse Vegetable Farm, the Natural History Museum at Pyongyang Central Zoo, the Pyongyang Metro, the Tower of the Juche Dia, the National Gift Exhibition House, the Monument on the Mantsu Hill, the Pyongyang Circus, the Korean Stamp Museum, and we enjoyed an orchestral performance at the Moranbong Theatre, as well as participating in a lively and cheerful international friendship gathering at the Sosan Golf Course. Some of the delegates, such as myself, attended an excellent dinner hosted by the DPRK Committee for Cultural Relations with Foreign Countries. So anyway, when we boarded the plane on the 11th, we were welcomed on board by friendly and pretty Air Koryo stewardesses. The plane left on time. It actually passed over the sites of the revolutionary battlefields of the anti-Japanese war for national liberation that was led by President Kim Il-sung. And we were treated to a soft drink on the plane and an excellent Air Koryo burger. I arrived at Pyongyang Sunan Airport on the afternoon of the 11th of April and was met by my guide, Mr. Oh Soo-jin of the Korean Association of Social Scientists. We travelled by coach to the excellent Pyongyang Koryo Hotel. Sometimes it seemed hard to believe that I was really back in the DPRK. It seemed like everything was in a dream. Everywhere we went, we encountered friendly people. People on the streets waved at our convoy, and the hotel staff were very friendly and helpful. During the visit, I witnessed that the situation in the DPRK is calm and stable. The DPRK had closed its borders for 4 years, but had survived, a truly amazing feat when you consider that some countries would only last weeks or even days with their borders closed. However, the DPRK is based firmly on self-reliance and the independent national economy. Despite the sanctions imposed by the US and its lackeys on the UN Security Council and the COVID-19 pandemic, the DPRK is carrying out massive construction work on a truly grand scale. In fact, I can say that in 19 visits to the DPRK, I've never seen anything like it. The DPRK is going through another great Cholima upsurge, and because Cholima was a flying horse, a mythical flying horse of legend in Korea, which gave its name to the mass movement for increased productivity in the DPRK in the late 1950s. A new street, uh, Hwasong Street, which is the size of a small city, had appeared in Pyongyang. On the day of our arrival, our coach to the hotel passed through, and later on in the visit, we drove through Hwasong Street, both during the day and the night. Hwasong Street looks very modern and of high quality. It would cost billions to build in a Western country. When when you think it probably costs in Britain. It probably costs about a couple £1,000 to replace one paving stone or something crazy like that. But DPRK was able to build this creation the size of a city, and the DPRK gives homes free of charge to its citizens. Whilst we were staying in the DPRK, the second stage of Hwasong Street was opened on the evening of the 16th of April in the presence of the supreme leader of the DPRK, respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. Also, a new street is under construction in the Sopo district and was visible when we were going back to Pyongyang Airport on the 18th of April. And in fact, the construction is so massive that the coach had to take a different route to the airport, both on the way in and on the way back. Construction is going on all over Pyongyang. Opposite the Pyongyang Koryo Hotel where I stayed, there was a new block of flats under construction, and several other blocks of flats under construction were visible in the near distance, as well as other parts of Pyongyang. What is significant is that this is being achieved without the so-called aid of imperialism or the South Korean puppets. During the emergency situation that arose in the spring of 2022, the South Korean puppets deliberately spread COVID-19 into the DPRK. The DPRK rejected aid from the South Korean puppets from the UN and the US. The daily newspaper of the Workers' Party of Korea, Rudon Sinmun, later described the aid of imperialism as a poisoned candy. The rapid development of People's Korea, by relying on its own resources and labour, is destroying the myth that outside assistance, particularly from the US and other imperialists, is somehow essential for a country's development. People's Korea has also blocked the road to the restoration of capitalism in the country by abandoning the goal of peaceful reunification with the decadent puppet capitalist South Korea. This was announced at the 9th plenary meeting of the Central Committee of the ruling Workers' Party Korea, held in December 2023. The WPK and DPRK have taken stock of the reality that after nearly 80 years of division, two states exist on the Korean Peninsula, and that South Korea is indeed the #1 enemy of People's Korea. I would add my own opinion that there is an antagonistic contradiction between the capitalist system and the socialist system, and the two cannot exist within one country. We visited the newly built Kangdong greenhouse vegetable farm, which was some 34 kilometers outside Pyongyang. It had only gone into operation in March this year. It was opened on the 15th of March in the presence of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. The farm had been built on the site of the former Miram Air Base of the Korean People's Army. One myth about People's Korea, created by the mainstream media of the imperialists, is that resources are diverted away from civilians to the military, but the construction of the Kangdong greenhouse vegetable farm shows that in fact this is simply not true. The farm has an area of 100 square hectares with 8 types of greenhouses. The farm has 1,800 workers. We were able to taste cucumbers produced by the farm. Significantly, the Kangdong greenhouse vegetable farm is not a cooperative farm, but actually a state farm, which means that it is owned by the whole people. The aim is to create a similar farm in each county or province of the DPRK. Vegetables from the farm were supplied free of charge to Pyongyang citizens. Also, dwellings for the workers of the farm were given free of charge to the farm's workers. It can be said that the DPRK is actually advancing towards the higher stage of socialism, communism. Probably the DPRK will be the first socialist country to reach the higher stage of communism. In recent years, a false narrative about the DPRK has been created by some sections of the mainstream media and people like the infamous NK News Gang, and also by so-called academic experts on the DPRK. People like Andrei Lankov, who in reality know absolutely nothing about the DPRK. The false narrative is that the DPRK is adopting market reforms and abandoning Juche-based socialism. This is, of course, quite a malicious rumour aimed at creating confusion and also disillusioning supporters of People's Korea. The fact that the DPRK is developing a network of state-owned farms to supply vegetables to the population shows that the DPRK is actually strengthening the planned economy and the system of state ownership. Although there have been massive changes in the DPRK since the last time I visited 5 years ago, what remained unchanged was the DPRK's consistent anti-imperialism and its adherence to socialist principles, to communist principles. Red flags were flying on street corners, and there were many revolutionary slogans in large Korean characters. Postcards of anti-US posters could be found in the bookshop of the Pyongyang Koryo Hotel and the Korean Stamp Museum. A friend of mine who had been with me in the DPRK in 2017, 2018, remarked that he had been worried by what he might find in the DPRK after an absence of 6 years. But when he arrived, he was quite relieved as well as very positive when he saw that there'd been no reform or opening up in the DPRK, and there was a complete absence of Western lifestyles and Western influence. Prices in the hotel shop were the same as in 2019. In fact, some of the prices actually looked slightly lower to me. Needless to say, the $250 banana, which NK News alleged existed, could not be seen in the hotel shop or indeed anywhere else in Pyongyang. I told my guide about this story and he just laughed about it and said it was ridiculous. There were no homeless people and I saw no one begging. Housing is given to people free of charge. My guide, Mr. O, said that he had originally lived with his parents in Mirai Scientist Street. But when he got married, he was given a new flat straight away. Now, just think if he was in Britain, he would face a choice of either working all hours and probably getting two jobs to pay a mortgage for 25 years, probably to buy a flat the size of a matchbox, or trying his luck with the council housing list and probably waiting donkey's years trying to get a flat with the council, unless he was a Ukrainian refugee and got the flat straight away, Harry Freeman's. Anyway, the streets were spotlessly clean with no litter. There were no drug addicts, prostitutes, lumpens, drug dealers, or decadent people. And I was able to leave my money in the hotel room, and it was still there when I returned in the evening or the afternoon. As for the tales of so-called human rights violations that the imperialists spread about the DPRK, I saw no evidence of human rights violations. And in fact, the DPRK has a fairly minimal police presence when compared to many countries. The police only direct traffic, and I didn't see masses of police. I can go to the centre of Bromley or Lewisham and see a police presence. And when I was in Brazil, it's a fact that in Brazil you will find 4 kinds of police on the street at any given time, including military police. That's a fact. But in DPRK, you just saw 1 or 2 police directing traffic. The situation seemed quite normal and very peaceful. I was able to make a speech at the seminar on the Juche on the theme of independence, justice, and the future of humanity. And this was held on the 15th of April, the day of the sun. And there were 10 speakers, including DPRK social scientists, as well as speakers from Russia, Mongolia, the Democratic Congo, and the International Institute of the Juche idea. In my speech, I pointed out that, and I quote, people's career under the leadership of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un represents the future of humanity. Rapid advances, such as the construction of new housing, as well as the launch of DPRK's first ever military reconnaissance satellite, are taking place one after the other. People's Korea is a country without unemployment, without beggars, and without drug addicts. It is a society free from the decadence of modern capitalism, which is rotten to the core. End of quotation. A follow-up lecture was held on the 16th of April with lecturers from the Korean Association of Social Scientists, and I was awarded, along with all the other delegates, a course certificate. I was sad to leave the DBRK on the 18th of April, but very glad I went, and my thanks are due to the Korean Association of Social Scientists, to my guide, Mr. O, and to the staff of the Pyongyang Koryo Hotel, and to the DPRK Committee for Cultural Relations with Foreign Countries for the excellent dinner they organised. I hope to visit Pyongyang again. Thank you for listening, and now please put a few questions, and I will answer them for people. I'm glad uh, to see that we got 17 people already. Hello to everyone. If I haven't said hello to you, right? Okay, I'll just go through the chat and see if there's a few questions. Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of the comments here. Uh, bourgeois tourists, yeah, did go to Deep Arcade and carried with them deep class prejudices and were hostile to the reality of socialism. Yes, good evening, anti-capitalist. And yeah, uh, just looking at the one of the questions. Yes, the Arch of Reunification has been demolished. We were near to that area and it clearly gone. And I think I could make out in the far distance where it actually stood. Yes, indeed, a DPRK is the most socially devout nation on the face of the earth. Yes, a up. Yes, hello, defender of the DPRK. Hello to People's Korea. Hello to friends from Turkey. I speak a little bit. I understand a little bit of Korean. Okay, if people like to put some more questions, I will answer them. Right. Well, yeah. Is it possible to work in the DPRK as an immigrant? Well, this question seems to come up all the time, both in live streams and in the Q&A sessions, and people send emails. Uh, the possibilities to work in the DPRK are very limited. Basically, the main area of work would be as a foreign language teacher, probably in English, and you would need a TEFL qualification to do that. And possibly there might be other areas in which people could cooperate uh, from, there might be possibilities of cooperation with the DPRK. So, some people might be able to live and work in the DPRK, but it'd be very limited. Well, sort of a question about is this the my home or the headquarters of the KFA? I don't comment on that, but basically, I don't reveal the location of where I live. Well, and what should the communists in the USA do to hold solidarity with the DPRK? Well, you should, I would say, join the Korean Friendship Association (KFA) and defend people's career with no ifs or buts. And I think for American communists, it is important to campaign against the US military exercises against the DPRK. Right. Let's see. Well, I mean, to answer the question about the Cultural Revolution, uh, basically the DPRK did not copy it. It did not import the Cultural Revolution because partly because it already started the ideological uh, revolution, some years earlier, and the DPRK put stress on the unity of the masses. So they viewed the Cultural Revolution as left opportunism. Yeah, I mean, I visited the Korean Stamp Museum, which is different to the Korean Stamp Corporation, which is right next to the Koryo Hotel. Uh, and yeah, I think in a few months when the DPRK starts sending out posts, you will be able to order stamps from the DPRK if you're a stamp collector. Well, and good evening to Zoltas Central. Uh, with US passports, it's actually the US that ban US citizens from uh, visiting the DPRK. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I agree that many, not just in the US, but a number of countries, many so-called communists and socialists are victims of anti-DPRK brainwashing and are quite hostile to the DPRK. You have a fake left in a lot of countries. So just trying to keep. I'm not sure about, language, skills. I mean, you'd still need a guide, and, also, the Korean language taught in a lot of countries outside the DPRK is actually based on, the South Korean version, and it is different. Right. If the people of South Korea were to go through revolution and aim for socialism against US control, could reunification be possible again? Yes, I think quite possibly. I mean, really, with the change in uh, the policy towards inter-Korean relations and reunification, uh, I often felt for a long time that the only way for reunification was through either the military action of the DPRK or a revolution in South Korea. A lot of fascists and Nazis hold solidarity and support with the DPRK. Do you support such a united front against the US and such? Well, I don't think it's true that a lot of Nazis and fascists support the DPRK. In fact, a lot are opposed to it. And we experienced that at one picket of the old US Embassy in Grosvenor Square, where uh, some people had organised a pro-Trump protest on the same day as our picket, and a person who was later identified as some British fascist was at the pro-Trump rally and shouted abuse about the DPRK. I think very few people on the far right actually support the DPRK. There's some, but we wouldn't be looking to make a united front with them. Like some new. No, people weren't wearing masks in the restaurants. Uh, we didn't have to go through quarantine procedures, but we were checked for COVID-19, and there were disinfection and decontamination procedures in place. We had our hands sprayed with disinfectant every time we went into the hotel, but there was certainly no quarantine uh, being enforced. You could go straight into the DPRK without being quarantined. Have you ever been there for the Ariang Mass Games? Yes, I've seen the Ariang Mass Games several times. The first time being in 2002, and also in 2012 and 2013, and also the game Glorious Country in 2018. Okay, please fire away with some more questions. We've got another 21 minutes. No, I haven't swum in the ocean in the DPRK, but I do know someone who has. Right, well, that's an interesting question about Trump's meetings with Supreme Leader Marshal Kim Jong Un, and basically, I think there's several answers I can give here. First of all, you've got to judge it by results, and basically, they produce very little apart from a uh, suspension of some, but not all, of the military exercises in South Korea. And, several people have speculated about Trump's motives in sort of initiating these sort of negotiations with the DPRK. Some have said that Trump was actually a prisoner of the US deep state and actually promised what he couldn't deliver. He was prevented from, coming to a settlement with the DPRK by the US deep state. Some people have said that. And, the other viewpoint is, of course, that he was insincere, that in fact, what he wanted really to do was he thought he could talk the DPRK into one-sided disarmament, and also to talk the DPRK into restoring capitalism in the DPRK. No doubt he wanted to build Trump hotels in Wonsan or DPRK cities. That's another interpretation of it. But at the end of the day, I think it was showmanship by Trump, which didn't really accomplish anything. And I can tell you a story, because I visited Panmunjom, the place where the DPRK and South Korea confront each other, and it was where the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed on the 27th of July 1953. And I visited there in 2017, it was at that time Trump had promised to destroy the DPRK, and there was a tense situation. Now, back in October 2019, 2 years later, I went to Panmunjom, and this was after the two DPRK US summits, and also the impromptu meeting at Panmunjom in late June 2019, as well as 3 inter-Korean summits. And something, I could not see any difference. It made no difference on the ground. So, I mean, that's my verdict about Trump. How is the leader of the WPK elected? Well, by the party congress. There's been the 7th and 8th congresses of the Workers' Party Korea, attended by a huge number of delegates, and that is how the General Secretary is elected. Yeah, I mean, I was able to access where, anything I wanted. You've now got Wi-Fi in the DPRK, or at least in the Pyongyang Koryo Hotel, which works on the ground floor, and KFA UK members present will know that I actually uploaded pictures from the DPRK directly to our Telegram channel while I was in the DPRK. I was able to get Wi-Fi there. Yeah, I mean, again, that's an interesting theory that Trump wanted to use the DPRK against China. I don't think Trump was honest and sincere. I think it was definitely done often the meetings were held with other purposes in mind. Uh, the Wi-Fi was a bit intermittent, and it didn't work on the 24th floor of the hotel where I was. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't too slow. I mean, it was okay speed, but I'd say a bit intermittent. The inviting organisation was the Korean Association of Social Scientists, not the DPRK Committee for Cultural Relations with foreign countries. So it was actually mostly members of Juche Dear study groups that were invited rather than KFA. Are are foreigners still able to purchase SIM cards on the Corio link? Ah, that I don't know. I didn't bother to ask because I found it much cheaper and more reasonable to just get Wi-Fi. Get a Wi-Fi password from the the front desk at the Corio Hotel. Well, basically, I think the main difference in Pyongyang that I saw between pre-COVID and post-COVID was simply so much construction work was going on, and lots of new buildings and lots of buildings in the process of construction. I mean, I think that was the uh, the main difference that I encountered, but a lot of things seemed unchanged. Well, I mean, joining Juche Idea study group, I mean, in Britain, if you just drop me an email, you can join, and you can participate in meetings. Well, I mean, the Wi-Fi was relatively expensive, and of course, also you can actually use the computer on the hotel communications desk. But I think it was just about under £1 for about 10 minutes or something like that. I mean, the trip cost about £1,200 plus spending money. Well, I mean, how strict was the hotel security? Well, I'm not. Um, they have a doorman on the front door, but I mean, the idea that you're constantly watched is not true, and guides are provided for people's convenience, because not actually many people speak English in Pyongyang. Uh, but certainly we were able to photograph anything we wanted. Right. Are there any more questions? Well, I was just giving the price in terms of the flights, but I didn't include the hotel in Beijing. or the DPRK visa, uh, or spending money in Pyongyang. Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, it could be about, you know, uh, as has been put, 1,500 to £2,000. Yes, it can. It can be up to that, or even a bit more. And also some DPRK organisations, sometimes you do have to pay for accommodation in the DPRK, which can push up, can mean that the costs are over £2,000. Well, I think the DPRK borders will be fully open, certainly by next year. If not, I think by the autumn of this year. Well, as for Beijing, I was there one day on the way in, and I stayed in a hotel near to Beijing airport, uh, and uh, and on the way back, I I was just in Beijing for a total of 3.5 hours. I just went from one terminal, Beijing airport, to another. I don't particularly like Beijing. I know some people love China and worship China, but I'm not one of them. I prefer Juche socialism to Chinese market socialism. And as someone here is going to point out, Beijing is not always the most easiest place, or easiest of places to travel through. Uh, well, I mean, just to answer the point that's come up, I mean, I specifically, because uh, ba- basically the room I had, one window, uh, you could see the railway line, because Koryo Hotel is very near to Pyongyang station. You could see the railway line in the marshalling yard. On the other side, there was a huge block of flats under construction. And I did say to my guide, "Is it all right that I photographed that?" And he said, "Yes." I mean, I photographed it just to show an example of all the construction work that was going on. Right, and just yes. Yeah, I mean, also you can go through Russia, but it's quite difficult. There's a flight from Vladivostok, but that would present a number of problems. Firstly, trying to get a flight from London to Vladivostok, you'd have to change several times, and also I don't think British citizens would be very welcome in Russia. I Yes, I think Chinese market reforms have made China closer to the capitalist way of life, and really, I can't see how they can achieve communism the route they've taken. But ultimately, it's for Chinese people to decide that. Uh, I can't remember an occasion when I asked my guide and I was told not to do something. I can't really recall an occasion. I mean, think once. This is going back 12 years. We're just told, "Oh, careful about photographing women on the street because they don't like being photographed." Uh, I think there might be one or two other things, but it really hasn't arisen. Well, um, about the feedback I got. Well, I don't like to sound like I'm boasting, but the feedback I got was amazingly positive. Several people congratulated me, people from different countries, as well as many of the Korean people congratulated me. And there is a brief clip of me speaking on KCTV, I believe. Uh, some, well, I mean, with the houses, I mean, they aim to build 10,000 flats. They've been aiming to build 10,000 flats a year in Pyongyang. And that's what, they've done in the last 3 years. So it's 30,000 and quite a big number in the countryside. I mean, I'd have to look it up and try and tot up all the figures. Maybe you're talking about 100,000 dwellings a year or more. Uh difficult to move to the DPRK, but there might be possibilities to do so. Uh, Pyongyang restaurants and food. Well, uh, I only used the restaurant and the hotel. It was fantastic, and did also go to a restaurant with the Cultural Relations Committee. Fantastic food. I basically stayed in the hotel. Uh about the statues, photographing the statues. We have been told that in the past, but we weren't told this on this occasion. What type of nationalities were at the conference? Well, uh, basically all nationalities. There were Europeans. There was people there from Germany, from Poland, from Austria, from Italy, from Britain, obviously, Bulgaria. There were a lot of Russians there. There was a delegation from Belarus there. There were several African delegations from Guinea, from Democratic Congo, from South Africa, a number of Asian countries like Pakistan, Nepal, and India, Thailand as well, and Latin America, but was represented by Brazil and also Mexico. And yeah, I made a few friends, and of course, actually met a lot of people uh, who who uh, who I knew already. Yeah, I mean, they do have different food that isn't Korean. We were served spaghetti bolognese one night and even burger and chips. What local food from the DPRK is your favourite? I enjoy the mung bean pancakes and I like Korean hot pepper sauce, chung, which is very good. The film we're showing tomorrow is a historical film. set in the feudal period and career, but I do not know so much about the film, and it would be my first time to see it. Well, no comment about burger joints. uh, I boycott McDonald's and Burger King. I've only ever been into either independently owned burger bars in Britain or in good old Wimpy, but I don't even go in those very much. Well, someone who supports the Juche idea is called a Juche idea follower, as simple as that. Some people have tried to use the term Jucheist, but that is an invented term. DPRK explained. I've heard of it, yeah, but I don't really know much about it. I must try to watch one. I think it's a little bit touristy. Have you ever been to Cuba? I'm asking because I'm Cuban. Well, I've never been to Cuba. Uh, an old friend of mine who was on here has been to Cuba, so he can tell you about Cuba. I want to go to Cuba one day. Running out of the old dosh though, so might not make it there. But so I really want to would like to go to Cuba. Maybe to Vietnam and maybe to Belarus. Uh, yeah, I've heard of no no due dole, which is progressive US Koreans. But I think some of the work they do is okay. The portrait of Marx in Kim Il Sung Square was actually uh, ta- um, taken down some time ago, well over 10 or 12 years ago, is they basically renovated Kim Il Sung Square and actually changed a lot of the portraits. The portrait of President Kim Il Sung on one of the buildings was also removed, and you got the portraits in the on the reviewing stand instead. However, you will find a portrait of Marx in the Party Foundation uh, Museum, and you can find a big portrait of Stalin in the International Friendship Exhibition in Mount Moyhan. Yes, Kim Il Sung is another term. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know the person behind DPRK explained. I think it's someone called Benjamin Watson or Benjamin Weston, and I don't know whether he lives in Mongolia or wherever. Uh, for the movie film night, please just email UK at careerdpr.com or Juche007 at Gmail, and we send you the link. The Nepal Workers' Peasants Party, uh, I understand it's very respected in Nepal. It's very anti-corruption, uh, and it, has a lot of support within one town. But we don't actually look to set up Juche parties. Rather than we have Juche idea study groups because we uh, we don't. DPRK is not like China and Albania, which tried to set up their own parties, and it's just led to problems. Is there a place or city in the DPRK that you haven't visited and want to visit? Well, there's many places in the DPRK I'd love to visit. I want to go to Chongjin. I want to go to Kimchake City, uh, and I want to go to Wonsan. I mean, I've been to Sarawon City several times, and I've been also to Samijon, but I'd like to go back to Samijon because it's been rebuilt since last time I was there. Right. Well, I don't have a book from Chairman Kim Jong Il, and with the DPRK electoral process, basically, if a candidate can't get support, they can't go forward to the election. But the selection process takes place before the election, and you can still vote against the candidates. Basically, got that option. Have I ever visited Kaesong? Yes, many times. Last time I was in Kaesong was October 2019. I've been to Kaesong several times, and I've stayed twice in the hotel in Kaesong, which is quite good, and it's quite a good place to stay. However, the first time I stayed in Kaesong, I can tell you a little story. At night, we heard explosions, and I've wondered, you know, uh, what was going on. And I spoke to my guides in the morning, and they thought it might have been quarry blasting or mine blasting. However, when we got to Pemjom, we were met by the KPA colonel who explained every, was telling us about about the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. The colonel told us that in fact 2 US helicopters had tried to intrude into the DPRK and were fired upon by anti-aircraft fire. Yeah, I can't really comment on about people being proved to live in Pyongyang or not. I mean, obviously, people do travel around the country and do sometimes change their residential area. In fact, the DPRK constitution does guarantee the right or rights to move around. No, I've never been to Mount Kumgang. Well, my opinion of the other parties is, one is the Korean Social Democratic Party, and the other is the Chonju's Chongju Party. One is based on the concept of national social democracy, and the other is is based on the Korean religion Chondu. Uh, yeah, I don't have any strong opinion of them. I think so long as they support socialism and don't oppose the Workers' Party, it's fine. Basically, the other question raised, that would never happen, and if it'd be just impossible for that, and if even if it did, the party would choose a new leader through the party congress, which is held every 4 years. The email is Juche Juche007 or the official KFA UK email address, UK@career-dpr.com. Yes. Yes. Well, I think that's a bit of a profound question, which would take a uh, lot of time to answer. But I mean, I'd just point out to people that DPRK has free housing, free education, free healthcare, abolished taxation, and would urge people to go and see it for themselves, or if they can't go and see it, watch the videos from the DPRK on YouTube. But I mean, it is a very tough job to go through. Yes, I've been to Sammy John in 2017. Right. Okay. Take one more question because we've gone on for a lot longer than I'd planned, and as someone has pointed out, it's proved very popular. Do you have any more holiday pictures? Well, I mean, I've put virtually everything I have on, different social media, on Twitter, uh, but mostly on Telegram and Facebook, and a bit on Instagram. Well, I mean, I answered the question about working in the DPRK earlier. It's very limited opportunities. You'd really have to be a TEFL teacher to get a job in the DPRK. But there might be other areas, but again, these would be limited. That's right. I mean, that's a very good point. Yes, democracy in the DPRK is stronger because there's single-hearted unity between the people and the leader. That's very true. It's a real democracy. And I think also, I mean, someone made the point about so-called Western democracy, in that the people who vote for the losing party are actually disenfranchised. You know, if you don't vote for the winning party, then your views aren't represented in the government. It's as simple as that. Which makes a mockery of the so-called idea of democracy. Well, perhaps we can speak uh, somewhere else about uh, recording the broad broadcasts and podcasts. I mean, these are saved by YouTube, so people can watch them anytime. Well, I think quite a lot of things stood out from my visit, but I mean, I think uh, the main thing was the huge amount of construction work going on and the scale of it. And I said I'd never really seen that kind of scale of construction in the DPRK in any of my visits, certainly not in the 1990s or in the early 2000s. And even in 2016, 2017, when they started to embark on this program of construction, it still was not on such a big scale as it is now. And basically, the DPRK is doing all this without imperialist aid, without reform and opening up. And yes, the DPRK still strongly supports Palestine, doesn't have relations with the Israeli Zionists. It's the only country, uh, uh, well, not the only country, but it's one of very few countries which doesn't have relations with the horrible Zionist entity. Right. Well, so thank everybody for their questions. I hope I've given everybody a fair crack at the whip, and you've been able to get your questions answered. I'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks with another live broadcast. I think this has been quite successful. Been great seeing you all here tonight, old and new friends. So I wish everybody a good evening. Goodbye.